All right, thank you, everyone who is joining us in person and remotely tonight. I think we will start by approving last month's minutes. They were distributed. Everybody got a chance to take a look. So I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. And we'll start with you, Charlie.
Yes.
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 Okay, the minutes are approved. And the first case before us is a continuance is Luthra, 15 Hendrick Lane South. Do we have somebody? We do. We do. Okay.
Good evening. This is Gene Vitrano for Dr. and Mrs. Luthra. I'm returning before the zoning board of appeals after our last meeting. We had a discussion about trying to reduce some of the existing coverage, most of it, which is the fountain and stones relating to that fountain, and also to address the existing shed that falls outside of the required setback. If I can share my screen. Can you see that now?
We can, thank you, yes.
Thank you. What I did is I put up the survey that we had submitted at the previous meeting, which showed all of the stone at the fountain and showed that the shed was existing at 13.6 feet off of that side yard, where the required setback is 15 feet. If I can, I would like to address the shed first, and then we'll address the stones at the fountain. On our new submittal, we are proposing to relocate the shed, to slide it so that it is 15 feet off of that side yard setback, to cut back the slab that's under that portion of the shed, and pour obviously a new slab underneath the shed that's now going to extend back onto the property line. So we would like not to decrease that coverage, but to satisfy zoning by making sure that it is 15 feet off of the side property line. But with that being said, let me go back to the previous submission, if I may. The fountain, right now, the fountain coverage is, let me go to my notes, 386 square feet. I revisited the site. I met with Dr. and Mrs. Luthra, and we would like to save the top portion of the fountain and reduce the coverage by 250 square feet. With that being said, the total coverage would then be 5,105 square feet, which is over what the allowable is. The allowable by code is 3,929.6 square feet. But I'll remind you that a variance was issued on the previous project, granting a coverage variance of 4,647 square feet. And then as a reminder, when I was going through planning and I had many conversations with Doug Hahn, I explained to him when I went back, let me go over the previous survey. When I went back and used the survey that was on file, this is the survey, and I calculated the coverage, and this was the survey used to grant that variance for 4647. When I calculated the coverage on this survey that was on file, the coverage is actually 4977. So with that being said, the only thing that's not on this survey is the fountain, which was added 10 years ago. So without confusing you, let me go back now to the updated survey. This is the survey that was completed by, oh my gosh, Ward Carpenter.
Mhm.
We're proposing to remove 250 square feet of this fountain, reducing, as I said, the coverage down to 5,105. So actually, it's only 128 square feet more than what's there now, even though,
Right,
right.
but about 500 square feet over what was approved by the zoning board the last time you were.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, that is correct. Yes. So
Um,
it's actually 458 square feet
yes,
above the variance, which is, it's an increase of 8.13% over the existing and an increase of 11.65% over the previously approved variance. So that's where we're at. We're at 129% of the allowable coverage. And right now it's at 118% of the allowable coverage.
okay, so now let me just clarify for 1 minute. Is this the property, these numbers that you've just given me, are these the numbers of the property as it exists? Or with the proposed work you plan to do?
So the numbers now in the new chart, let me go there. If you give me 1 second, please. So these are the numbers now with the proposed work. As you see, I reduced the fountain. The fountain was at
Could you just, any way you could make that a little bit bigger? We're having a hard
sure,
time
sure.
seeing it. Okay, yeah.
I don't want to lose the drawing. I want to try to keep the drawing up also. Right, so I reduced the fountain to 136 square feet. It is now, as it sits on the ground, 386 square feet.
Okay, yes.
Right, so now we're looking for an increase 129.9 of the allowable. And it's actually only an increase of 128. And again, I understand the 4977, I don't know where that number came from, other than the fact that when I used CAD and I took the drawing that was on file at the building department, that was the calculation. And again, in speaking to Doug Hahn, he said that that's the number that I should use, not the number that the variance was granted for. So we took your recommendation. I met with Dr. and Mrs. Luther. I went back to the site. I measured everything again for the fourth time. And we're hoping that this satisfies your request.
Gene, can I ask you a question?
Yes, certainly.
According to my notes from the last meeting, you were proposing 5,219 square feet, which means, according to my calculations, you're only reducing it by 114 square feet, not
Right.
250.
5,000. Let me go back to my notes. I have the previous chart. Let me go back to it if I may, please.
Yeah.
You have to excuse me. I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to technology. I still like to draw with a pencil and a T-square. I don't know if that was the number I gave you, I misstated it. These are the numbers off of the previous submission, the 4977. And then these are the recalculated numbers. The 5105 is the proposed, which is 100, it's 128 over the 4977.
Well, I mean, at the last meeting, you were very specific. It was 5,219 square feet and it was 132.83% of allowable. I didn't just make up. So
No.
I apologize for that. Again, this is, I don't know what to say. I could try to find the other drawing if you want to give me a minute. Let me see if I can find the previous submission. If you just give me 1 second. That's not it. I apologize. You have to excuse my voice. I'm fighting a bit of a virus.
Fine.
Apologize. Okay. This was the previous submission, 5355. I don't know if you can see that. That's the chart from the previous submission. There's the Fountain and Stone 386. We're reducing it to 136.
Yeah, I think we all did have
This
that
was it.
number, so it's just,
Yeah, I apologize. That was the submission. That's the drawing that we submitted.
yeah,
If I said that, then I missed it. That is the coverage that I worked out with Doug Hahn when I went before the planning board.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that, I'll tell you my knee-jerk reaction, and then I'm gonna ask for any feedback from anybody else on the board. It's not what I was hoping for when we asked you to come back with less. This 4977 number, I understand that you were told that's the number to work with, but I mean, look, what the zoning board approved the last time you were here was 4,647 square feet. You're now
Well, yeah,
asking me to go.
actually, that wasn't me. That was 20 years ago. and it was a-
I just meant your applicant. I
yeah,
didn't mean-
sure.
Right, that's fair.
Sure.
You now want to go up almost 500 square feet. A lot of this coverage was done after there was an approval from the zoning board without a permit. It's not as much as I was hoping as a reduction just to make that fountain a little bit smaller, but that's my opinion. I want to know, does anybody else have any feelings on this at the moment?
So, I mean, I'm only speaking for myself.
Yes.
It's a big jump, and
Yeah.
I'm still like, we keep skipping over this 330 square feet that
Yes,
magically appeared
Yeah.
somewhere between 2009 and
Yeah.
and now.
you're
Like, and we have not yet received a good explanation for that.
No, that was on the survey on file at the building department that the variance was issued for. I mean, if Ed is there, that's the survey that Ed gave me. That's at the building department. So that extra 300 and something square feet was actually on that survey. And whoever did the previous calculation either did it in error, didn't count everything, because that's the survey on file in the building department.
Which is not an explanation as far as I'm
Well, I'm saying,
concerned.
but this is the survey that the building department has on file for Dr. Luther's property. And when I calculated it, and again, I use AutoCAD, I've been using it for many years, the quantity is actually 4977, not 4647. So I don't know where that jump came from. Dr. Luther didn't build anything. The only thing that was added was the fountain from this survey. That's the only thing that was added. So
It was
whoever
not
did the calculations made a
Or
great
around
error.
330, it's more.
more.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
more, right.
yeah, it's even more, right. I don't know, does anybody else have anything they want to say?
I have some of the same concerns that you all have expressed. I'm really rather confused. I mean, we don't know, had the previous zoning board been presented with something that had that fountain on, whether they would have approved it or not.
Right.
I understand that apparently the square footage is appropriate, but that's not what they
Was
came
approved.
to us with
Right.
2 weeks, last month, whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Anybody else have any thoughts?
This new survey, we commissioned Ward Carpenter. Because when I went to the property and met with Dr. and Mrs. Luthra, I saw that the fountain was not on the survey that was given to me by the building department. And this is the survey that was used by the previous whoever, designer, architect, to get the variance. So when I saw that the fountain wasn't included, everything else on here is on Ward Carpenter's survey, except for the fountain. So
Correct.
the fountain we know was added after that survey, but the quantity, it was incorrect. I mean, if I use the 4647, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but that's not what was covered by this survey. It's 4977. I mean, we didn't, you know, I'm really, I'm at a loss. That's the only thing different is this fountain. And when you
I
calculate this coverage,
think you're in a difficult position. I feel badly about it, but that doesn't change my view of it, of where the decision we should make.
Yeah, and having said that, I mean, I would also say there are things you could cut back on that would bring those numbers down and would bring, you know, there's a shed, there's the fountain, there are several things you could eliminate from this property that would make the numbers more of what we are inclined to approve.
I don't, but the deck can't be removed. The driveway, I mean, do I ask Dr. Luthra to start?
The driveway
Putting
isn't
up-
part of our calculations.
No.
We don't.
The deck, this deck was part of this submission where the variance was approved. There's the deck. We're actually, our sunroom, if we were just before you for the sunroom is actually almost 19 square feet smaller than the existing deck. So if it weren't for the fountain, we would be decreasing the coverage off of this survey. And that's the only thing that I had to go with, you know, the survey on file at the building
I
department.
understand your dilemma, but you know, the truth of the matter is when we're approving variances that are pushing the limits of what we approve anyway, we are often looking for a little bit of a reduction in a change to a property to bring those numbers more in line with what we do. So, I mean, that would be an ideal situation. Unfortunately, it's not the situation we're in. So I would say this, unless there's anybody, Sarah, who wants to be heard on this. I can make a motion, or we could adjourn this and you could go back and talk to your owner and decide to maybe come
Actually, I
back with-
believe Dr. Luthra is on this Zoom call. If he would like to say anything, I mean, I'm at this point, I'm at a loss. And I understand your dilemma, but I hope you can appreciate mine, that I'm working with convoluted numbers that, I mean, this is the survey that is on file in your building department, completed by Riley Land Surveyors, who aren't even in business any longer. That's why we reached out to Ward Carpenter to give us an updated survey. And this is the only difference.
And I understand that, but I also understand the amount of coverage you have right now is the amount of coverage that
Yes, I understand that.
or not, it's the number you thought it was, or it isn't. You know, I understand that it creates an issue for you, and I'm sorry about that. But we are dealing with how much coverage is permitted on these properties, and this is the number.
I understand, but and again, I mean, I don't know, you know, there's a property again at 23 Hendrick Lane North, that's 150% over allowance. You know, so it isn't that we're not establishing a precedence here. There have been various variances that have been granted in the past. I mean, Dr. Luthra's in an isolated area, beautifully landscaped and maintained property. We're actually, you know, taking care of the drainage for the sunroom. We're installing a dry well, so there'd be no additional impact on the soil or the neighbors.
Yeah, no, and I understand, and that we absolutely do take that into consideration. I mean, somebody had mentioned at our last meeting that this was going to add bulk, and my own personal opinion, and I'm not speaking for anybody else on the board, is the bulk doesn't bother me because of where it is vis-a-vis the neighbors and the other properties. So for me, I do take that into consideration, absolutely. It's just we are having a problem of coverage that was added between the last application and this one that is changing the way we look at this application.
I mean, again, I would appreciate another recommendation. As I said, Dr. Luther is here. I mean, what do? Do we take the entire fountain down? Do we start removing composite decking in the back of the property? We can't, the footprint of the home isn't going to change. The deck is here. The sunroom again is smaller than the existing deck. I mean, the shed is 100 square feet. If I don't, if we take that away, does that make it more doable? And again, that's up to Dr. Luther. I know he uses that to store his, there's the lawn tools in there. There's some, furniture in there. I mean, we all kind of have a shed to store those kind of things. I mean, I'm really at a loss.
Okay, Dr. Luther, I think would like to be heard. So
thank you.
have him come on in.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for looking into this. But, as I was telling Jean and, we've gone through a couple of meetings here, and I think I sent the email also to all the members. I mean, there's a bit of confusion about this shed. And as I said, the shed was there when we bought the property. And then when this last thing was done about 11 years back when we had the project done, at that point, the shed had been taken down, but, the concrete pad was there. So 3 or 4 years later, when we felt the need to put the outdoor furniture and all, so we just built another shed thinking that, it was always there. Now, the fountain, I agree, was, the landscape, the architect who did it for us, he's a local guy. He never told us that it's going to increase the coverage. Otherwise, we would have never done it. But anyway, we are willing to reduce it. At this point, what Jean is proposing is just going to leave the fountain there and everything else around it is going to be gone. And beyond that, I don't think there's anything else to be taken down. I mean, at this point, I feel that, we're getting to a point that, it's becoming very unreasonable for me to comply at this stage. I mean, what else can we do?
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything? So Jean, I sort of have posed a question to you. What do you want to do about this? Shall I go forward and make a motion? Do you want to take another month and take another look at this and maybe take a deep breath and?
Again, I have to defer to my client. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what else to do, to satisfy the board. And I appreciate your concern and your recommendations, but ultimately, it's Dr. Luther's home.
Where are you with the planning board?
Planning board is done, approved, finished.
You're approved from the planning board.
Yes. Yep. And as I told you, planning board, I mean, they had me complete a cross section. Let me see if I even have it. They wanted a cross section from Broadway down to the river. We went to them 3 times. And again, it really had nothing to do with the sunroom, because if it were just the sunroom, it was going on an existing deck. It was, was the coverage, and it was, we didn't block any view. We gave them a centerline profile, did a topo. So we have approvals from planning.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'm just looking for more or less maybe a timeline and a timeline of the events, because the numbers are kind of moving around.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make a decision when, my last notes, I was at, the 5219.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know where that came from. I brought up the previous drawing.
Came from you, Gene.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it may have. And again, if you're confused, this is my 4th time here. I have 22 pieces of paper with numbers in front of me. So, I'm not complaining or making excuses, but.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Luther, I think, has one other thing he'd like to say.
You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to say that, everything is, transparent right here. All the papers are there, all the drawings are here. It's not like, we're trying to, hide something or build something that's not visible to the neighbors or, the zoning board or the village. So, I mean, at this point, it's like, when Gene came back to us about reducing the fountain, I mean, we all love the fountain, but we said, okay, you know what? If this is what we have to give up, we have to give up because we want to be in compliance. But at this stage, I mean, taking another month, what is it gonna do? I mean, it's like, we have to get an answer. This is the fourth time Gene is here, we've gone through the planning board, so I just want to get something done right now and, get it over with.
Right.
Punting it for another month is not gonna change anything.
We do seem to be talking in circles at this point, so I think at this point, I'll just make a motion.
Well, hang on.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So here's what I'm willing to say,
Okay,
and I'm only speaking for myself.
yeah,
Right, if we solve the side yard setback problem
okay,
and we submit a plan that reduces the 4977. That
okay.
that could be something I would vote.
That, I'm sorry, what do you mean reduces the 4977?
Well, the original intention was to reduce the deck by 19 square feet. So if we had a submission that got us to under 4977. Right, because that was their original assertion that they were actually reducing coverage.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, all right, I hear what you're saying, yeah,
I could be okay with that.
okay.
Can I ask Dr. Luther something? And I know that fountain, I know that you spent money for it. I know that you enjoy having it there. If that fountain were removed entirely, that's an additional 136 square feet. That would put us below the 4977 because I'm 128 square feet over it now.
No,
No, we're not gonna remove the fountain.
yeah.
Well, they don't want to. All right, so then I don't know.
No, because the only thing, Gene, I don't know if you guys hear me, the shed, because the shed, if it's not on a concrete slab, then it's not counted as covered area. I might be wrong, but that's what I read on the village website. So, I mean, what we can do is remove the shed from where it is and put it on a non-concrete surface. So that's going to reduce it by over 100 square feet.
That'll get used by 103 square feet. So
Yeah.
we'll be then
That
at,
we can do, yeah.
we'll be at 5,002 square feet. How does that work for the board?
That is not my understanding. I think a shed is coverage.
Okay, they remove it completely.
Okay,
Rid of shed, I said.
It has to be 64 square feet or under, I believe.
okay,
Right, so we can do that. We can remove the concrete pad, and then if we need, which we will need a shed, we can, at later stage, we can put it at whatever 64 square feet if we need to. But we can remove the shed for now, yeah.
So
So
if we remove the shed, we're down to 5,002, and to get it under the 4977, we need another 25 square feet. Again, then we'll remove 275 square feet of the building wall,
of what, I'm sorry?
of the fountain wall. We'll get that fountain wall down to 100 square feet. I'll meet Dr. Luther there. We'll mark the stones that are gonna stay. So if we reduce this by 36 and we
Then we are at that
take the
number,
shed
right?
away, that's 139, we'll be below
Okay.
the 4977. Can we do that?
So let me just understand, we're gonna have what is before us, except that the shed is gonna be removed.
Yes,
Well, the shed is gonna be removed
Yes.
because it's over 64 square feet, so the shed would have to go.
And it's in this, it's
and
encroaching on
then,
the
and then
side.
we'll remove another 36 square feet from the fountain.
And then another 100 square feet from the fountain.
No,
And that-
another, I apologize, not 136. We'll leave
Another-
100.
Right, because you only need, okay, another 36 square feet from the fountain. And then we are down to around that 4977 number or a little bit less, but even if we're right at 4977, that's the current proposal.
We'll be at 40, yes, we'll be at 4966.
Okay, let's do that. And I'm gonna put this all in the letter, so it's gonna be spelled out
All
that
right,
that's,
thanks. And then I'll prepare another site plan.
we haven't voted on it, that's just the proposal. I have to make.
I apologize.
Make a motion. So I will make a motion to approve what we have discussed tonight, which is the plans that were submitted to us with the removal of the shed and the removal of 36 square feet around the fountain. And if that is done, then I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I had a question.
Oh.
Is the shed completely being removed or is the shed
It's going to have to be, because it's not just that they need to remove
the pad?
the pad, it's that it has to be under 64 square feet, and it's now about 100. So they would have to remove the whole shed.
And then as long as Dr. Lutz puts a shed under the 64 square feet, then we don't have to come back before ZBA, right? That's correct?
As long as it's,
You wanna see the code?
yeah, actually, that'd be great.
It's 64 square feet. I read it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it would have to not be in any setback, of course.
Yes,
On
of
a
course,
setback,
of
yeah.
course, yes. Of course.
Okay, yep. That's what the code says. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Okay, so that is the motion that I am going to make. Do I have a second?
I'm second.
All right, we'll start with you, John.
I'm gonna vote yes, but I don't want to delay this anymore, but given the history, I really wish we could ask. I'd like to see this. I'm not insisting, I'm just stating my preference would be to see this. So we all know what it looks like.
You mean a final set of drawings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm sympathetic to that.
Right.
yeah, just given the history of it.
So do you want, I mean, then you want me to take the survey from Riley and then the new Ward Carpenter survey and then my proposed site plan and put those on one sheet? So you could see the progression? what-
Yeah, plus I think they're probably gonna need that at the building office anyway, right?
Well, they're gonna need an as-built survey after construction anyway, which will, and it'll show the fountain has been reduced by the 286 square feet.
Right.
Okay.
I know it seems like we're dragging this out, but if we all agree, if we could see this, we could do it in 5 minutes. If we had the drawings.
Have him redo them right now.
Well,
No,
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 yeah,
no,
what you're saying.
no, no.
you're saying next month.
Yeah,
get what you're saying.
I'm
No,
apologizing.
I think we have, I mean, I'm sorry, but I think this is dragged on too long. You have to take our word. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna build like a twin tower in my backyard. This guy is proposing we can take the space and take it down. I mean, let's move forward. It's,
I would need to see the new plans to vote this evening.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm sympathetic to that.
Doctor, just to be clear, it's not a question of trust. I have complete trust in you insofar as I know you. The history has been so confused that between us, I think
We've
it
had a lot of
would
different
be
sets of
difficult
numbers.
for us to reconstruct it, frankly.
no, but I understand what you need, but I think why can't we just vote and approve it and then he'll submit the drawings? I mean, why are we punting it by another month? That's my frustration with this whole process.
If you're able to stipulate in your resolution, I'll get this finished by the middle of next week and
Yeah.
I'll get it into the building department. Because the architecturals, everything else is finished. If I have your approval, then I need to be referred to the Board of Architectural Review. I'll get the plans into Ed and I'll have the revised site plan showing the removal of that 286 square feet of the fountain and the removal of the shed. They won't be on the proposed site
Right.
plan.
Because otherwise it's gonna just keep on delaying it, for the next ARB and then, it's already been 7 months, so.
Yeah, I mean, we have done stipulations by letter before. Where they do have to, and they can't get a building permit unless they are unless their plans are in line with what we do. In our letter. So I think we could, I mean, I understand, believe me, this has been a particularly confusing case for all of us because the numbers have changed. But I do think if I very specifically say in the letter that the shed is removed, 36 square feet additional of the fountain are removed, and the number that we land on is 4966.
I think that's the key,
I think that's the key.
right?
Yes.
The number's gotta be 4.
Then I think if I put that in the letter, I think they can go ahead and go to the ARB next month.
I will make it 4966. I will get
Okay.
it. Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's the motion I'm making. Will you
I'm
second it again?
Right.
Okay. John?
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
Yes. I know, you're.
But it's already gone through.
Yes.
So, I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's gone through, so, because I just want to see the final plans, because they've changed so much
I
over the last.
totally sympathetic
4
to that.
times.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so you are approved with those stipulations. I will get you a letter by the end of the week where those are stated very specifically. And you can move on from us.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Okay.
time. Thank you, everyone.
You bet. Okay, the next motion before us is ETA Fargo LLC. There's 90 Fargo Lane. And I thank everybody for their patience. I think it was worth working through that.
Hello, all. This is
Hi,
John.
John.
Hey, John Ferguson, Malone Architecture. We're back to discuss modifications to the electrical service panel that was mounted on the property line pole. As we discussed last week, I think the board suggested that we look at alternatives that might move the service off the pole. We met at length with the electrician and also communicated with Con Edison to make sure that they would accept an alternate location. And it turns out that they will. And so we've clarified that. So we're proposing relocating the service to a meter panel. Let me share a screen and just confirm that everyone's seen this. So this is, oops, hold on. Let me zoom, hold on. It's very small, so let me just zoom into the area of question here. So the meter panel was on this area property line pole, or it is currently located on this pole, which is basically at the property line. What we're proposing to do is locate that approximately 20 feet back from the property line in this area here. The pole will be mounted, I mean, the panel that is on there now, the meter panel and the shut-off switch that is associated with the service will both be mounted in this location on steel conduit. The reason we've chosen this location is twofold. There's existing screening of existing shrubs here, and then also an existing property line screening. And also this position allows us to reuse a portion of the installation that is there today. And it's a portion of the installation that's very important because it's the portion that moves underneath the driveway. So you'll see here, there's a light line indicated here with ease, which is the existing electrical connection for the service. And then the remainder of that line goes here, and we're showing it dotted, it to be removed. And then that wire, there may need to be a new wire, but they'll have a conduit connection at this point and move to this new panel in this location. I've thrown up a few photos to sort of just locate where that is. So as you're coming down Fargo Lane from the south, or you're sort of coming up Fargo Lane from the south, this is the house, and this is the existing panel where it is now. The meter portion of the panel is visible. We're proposing relocating it here behind this existing shrub. Again, it's 20 feet back from where this existing post is, but it is already screened by existing plant material. And then from the other side, this is the the north side looking south. Here is the existing panel where it's visible from the street. And the location that we're putting it is behind this existing deciduous shrub. And again, it's 6 feet high, so it's down at this point here. And then I think the last photo is here. This is showing sort of a dead on, if you were opposite. Again, the existing panel is here, and we will be looking to relocate it in this location here behind the existing shrub. So here you can see this is not an evergreen hedge, it's a privet. And so the proposal that we've included Let me see if I can get here. Includes new plantings in this area here to fill the hole that is in that hedge. So to make that hedge more robust, and these are semi-evergreen, these are skip laurels that can handle the shade. And that was sort of what our what was driving the position here. So we feel like we can screen it completely and it can go away. We did look at moving it completely out of the setback, because this still requires a front yard setback, not a side yard, but it does require a front yard setback of about 20 feet in a 50-yard front yard. We did look at moving it back, but there's a few reasons that that's problematic. First of all, the reuse of the sorry, I went the wrong way. The reuse of the existing conduit and the reuse of the driveway does not work in that location. So, drawings here.
So you wouldn't be able to use what's there that is under the driveway.
Right. So the issue becomes this length here that we're reusing. If you move it back into the property line, you can't make this bend because an electric, you can't bend back on itself. So this would have to be replaced. So that involves basically replacing all the conduit, opening up the driveway and destroying a snow melt system that's in place on this driveway, because the driveway is so steep that there's a snow melt system built into the driveway, which is basically an electrical system that keeps the driveway warm enough so it doesn't ice up. And so that would all have to come up, so that it basically increases the cost of the relocation from anywhere from 3 times to 5 times to make that change. So, and then also this location here, it doesn't really, it's harder to screen. It's harder to screen for the owner, and it's harder to screen actually from the street, because a portion of the landscape has to remain open for the driveway, and that this location can actually be screened from the driveway, and this one is a little harder to screen. And then finally, like pushing it further away from the house and trying to take advantage of more existing screening, you start to get into the root zone of this tree, which is a fabulous old Japanese maple that we don't want to trench through their roots to put this in. So just quickly to go back to this photo, this location here allows us to use the existing screening and use some of the more mature shrubs, where to get into the setback, you'd be back in this area here, right? Which you see from this view is harder to screen, and we think it doesn't benefit the neighborhood. There's no improvement from here to here, and it has a lot of deficits in terms of cost that is probably 3 times, or at least 3 times as much, and then also impacts for views from this house. I think there's also potential impacts for view for the neighbor in this location, because where the Japanese maple is, it's hard to screen that area because we can't plant in that area. So if they look underneath the Japanese maple or in winter, they would see this this position. Even if we wrapped it in plants, there's a chance that they would be seeing the panel. So that's where we are. If you guys have any questions.
Questions?
So, John, are you just moving the panel, or are you moving the pole too?
The pole is Con Ed's pole location, so we're not moving the pole, and also the pole was already approved and the building permit was closed on that. I don't think the building department or the planning board had any issue with the pole. It was the actual meter and the meter panel and the switch is what they were concerned about, and the rack that was holding it.
Right, so how far off the ground will the panel be?
The meter assembly, this whole pedestal assembly, is 6 foot high to the top of it. And so the top of the meters are going to be more like 5 foot high, but the pole that's associated with holding it, I think we had a image of what the thing looked like. I'll bring it into the screen.
So you're going to put in a pole and a meter?
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking to you about pole. It's not pole. It's 4-inch diameter. I'm sorry, it's 2-inch diameter steel piping that holds this assembly here, if you can see this, right? It's like 2 steel pipes stuck in the ground, meter on one side, switch on the other side, and then power serving that from the ground. So it's a pedestal arrangement. There's no additional pole that you're going to see.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, so John, if I make a motion to approve, it would be subject to the screening that you've shown us here tonight.
Yeah, and that's on the drawing, Sarah, that's there.
It's on.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so then I will make a motion to approve. Again, subject to that screening. Do I have a second?
I second.
Excellent. Charlie, we'll start with you.
Yes.
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 All right, you are approved. I will send you a letter.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay. So our next case is 88 Fargo Lane.
Fargo Lane.
It's Fargo Lane. Sure is. Do we have somebody on that? Okay.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
I'm going to share my screen here and bring you next door, actually just south of that last property at 88 Fargo. And my name is Mike Jacobs. I'm an architect with Jacobs Chang Architecture. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owners at 88 Fargo. And I'm here in front of the zoning board to request consideration on both a continuation of a non-conforming side yard and front yard setback. So just for a little bit of context, 88 Fargo is located here amidst the kind of a leafy kind of residential neighborhood, as probably you all know. The neighborhood, the property itself is a flag lot. So coming in from a shared driveway into the property from here. And this driveway is shared by 4 properties at 84 Fargo, 90 Fargo, 92 Fargo, and of course 88. And you'll see that you kind of come in from the north. The house is located close to the north end of the property. And then there's kind of a large area to the south. The neighborhood's filled with a variety of different size homes from different styles of homes, and of course built at different times. So pretty varied neighborhood. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting stuck here.
But can I just ask you a quick question?
Sure.
You'd mentioned side yard and front yard setback?
Yep.
Is it just the side yard? I'm just looking at.
Yeah, I'll walk you through real quickly. I've got a diagram, but there's a non-conforming front yard setback because of the way that the yards are designated on a flag lot. So during the zoning board hearings, it was determined that the front yard is actually up on the north side, which kind of makes sense. And then there was some discussion of whether we had 2 front yards, one on the east and then the west. So there was a long discussion. Anyway, it was determined with the building inspector that we have the front yard, of course, on the north, 2 side yards on either east and west, and then the backyard is designated as the south end of the property. Does that make sense?
And when you noticed this, was this noticed as a front and side yard setback?
Yes.
Okay, is
You
that,
mean like when we sent the application in?
and when you gave notice to the neighbors?
Yes. So in our zoning board application that was mailed to the neighbors, it referred to both setbacks.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Just a little context, some of the houses on Fargo, this is the shared driveway, which comes in past 84 Fargo. Sorry, just jump back. 90 Fargo, of course, that notorious power pole. And over here, 92 Fargo, 92 Fargo, which is actually the house that's tucked behind 88. So a little bit further west towards the river. And what you're seeing in the foreground is a fence line between those 2 properties. And so we come to 88 Fargo, and on the left here, I'll start there. This is the entry court, let's call it, where the history that I'm aware of on this property is that the 2-story volume of the house, which is obviously here, was an old barn, an outbuilding on a prior property before things were subdivided. It was converted in 1954 into a house, and at that same time of the conversion, this 1-story portion of the house was added to the old barn. So this is kind of all from As a house, 1954. As a structure, the 2-story predates the smaller 1-story. As we move to the back of the property from the south end, looking back north, you can see in the foreground the 1-story portion, and then of course the gambrel roof 2-story. And just a few more views from around the house. As we move to the kind of west side, and then of course getting a look at some of the roof dormers. One of the side yards in question with our non-conforming setback is, along the east side of the property. And so what you're seeing on the left is the sort of side of that existing 1-story garage, and how that setback looks in its existing conditions. This is looking south, and of course the middle one is looking north. So from the other direction, there's a little copse of trees, cedar and a pine tree in that area. And then one of the issues that came up just in terms of context and setback, non-conforming setback issues, this is a photograph we received from the neighbor at 84, one of his sort of, I would say, prized views of the Hudson River and the Palisades beyond, or Piermont. And so this was part of how we were beginning to kind of navigate through Viewshed, but ultimately our proposal, which you're seeing here, is kind of where the proposal at the moment lands with the approval from the planning board, but of course contingent on the variance for the setback. And so how might that look from the backyard view? On the left, you're seeing existing. On the right, you're seeing proposed. Again, from the front entry court, left is existing, right is proposed. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here so we can read it a little better. But the pink area is kind of the highlight of our site plan, but just to call attention to some of the setback issues. This here is the front yard, and the front yard setback is this kind of dark blue line that's kind of tracing through a portion of the house. This is the 2-story volume. And so really when the zoning code was established, the house was already built and is already in non-conforming setbacks. So I think it probably predates the zoning code, is my gut feeling, but you guys may know better than I do. What I'm calling out here in pink, these two doors, obviously this whole portion of the house is non-conforming, but for the basically for this argument or this presentation, the areas in question are these 2 dormers. And each one of them is 26 square feet, and they are existing dormers that are encroaching into that into the front yard setback. As we move to the east, which is at the bottom of the page, we can see that this is the 1-story structure, and this is the portion of that 1-story structure that is in the existing non-conforming encroachment. The existing 1-story structure is 16 feet from the side property line. So from this edge here, this neighboring property line, 16 feet in. And that's where it is today. And if we move then to our proposal, what we're asking for is an enlargement of the roof dormer that faces the west and also faces the east. On the west, we're asking for a proposed dormer encroachment increasing from 26 to 78 square feet. And on the east, increasing from 26 to 31 square feet. On the east side of the house, which is really where the significant portion of the work is being done as like an addition, a rebuild. We're asking for, instead of 260 square feet, which was in the non-conforming setback, an encroachment of 300 square feet, also at exactly the same 16-foot setback that's existing. So we're not asking for any, I guess, change in the setback other than the square footage. So that's the difference. And to summarize from our zoning worksheets, the FAR allowable on this property is 6,817. We are proposing a house that is now 32 square feet, so well under the allowable FAR for the property. The development coverage also allowable at 4942. The existing is 4353. And even with the addition here, we're removing some decks and patios in the back of the existing, but our proposed development coverage is actually dropped as a result of the proposed work here. So no need for any variances in that context, really just the setbacks Really just for more informative stuff. Our stormwater diagram that was approved by planning, a 2-story house here and a little Coltech unit in the ground on this portion of the property. So well outside of the kind of maybe mature trees on this end, and then the grove of cedars, which kind of ring the property on the east side here. Yeah. I'm happy to stop. I have floor plans, which I think were part of our application. I'm happy to discuss some of any questions about the interior design or floor plans of the proposal, or even show elevations. I have those as well.
Sarah, is there I thought you mentioned there might be somebody who wanted to be heard on this.
No, that was for.
That was for the other. Okay, we're good. Okay. Anybody else that wants to be heard on this one? Okay. Any questions from the board?
I have, yeah, so Mike, has there ever been a variance granted on either the encroachments in the front or side yards?
I'm aware of no variances that are in the history that I've seen on the records.
Did the subdivision create the encroachment?
I actually don't know when the property was subdivided either. The records on the building department's website go back to, I think they predate 1954 only because there was an earlier C of O or some sort of deed on the property. But the conversion, because I think the 2-story structure predates 1954. So obviously there was something there.
But you said the subdivision was in 1954. At least that's what I wrote down.
Well, the construction of this particular house, like converting it from barn or outbuilding to house, happened in 1954.
Yeah, I think it's been relatively untouched since then. I don't think there is another.
Right, but is the encroachment self-created, right, by the subdivision?
My guess is it was, but I don't have any, that's just a guess.
Right.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to approve. Especially I appreciate not pushing out too much into that side yard setback. And I'm not as troubled about whatever you're doing in the front yard setback. I don't think that's gonna have a particular effect on that property. All in all, I think it's a pretty good design to use what you've got without going too far in either direction. So I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll start with you.
Yes.
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 All right, you are approved and I will send you out a letter by the end of the week.
Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night.
Okay, so last but certainly not least, we have Oak Street. So do we have anybody on that? Yes.
So I also have a question on notification here, because in the
Ah.
description, it says encroachment
No, I
to
don't.
front yard Maple Street.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, right, Maple's 2 blocks down. Exactly my point.
Sorry.
So how did that get noticed?
Hi, John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture.
hi, John, we just have a question before we go any further about the notice on this. This was noticed to the neighbors and it not as Maple Street.
It was noticed, there was something incorrect in the notice. And what did it indicate? I'm sorry.
Said encroachment to front yard, parentheses, Maple Street.
Right, it's an encroachment on the Oak Street front yard, not the Maple Street front yard.
Question is, how is it noticed?
Right, is that could be a mistake on our end here, just in making out the agenda, or it could have
Oh,
been a
yeah,
mistake.
let me take a look at our, hold on one second. It may take me a moment to find our notice, but I can certainly do that. Hold on. Oak Street. Okay, I'll share a screen and show you guys how it was noticed. Okay, are you seeing the notice here?
Yeah, can you make it a little bigger?
Yeah,
How big area?
I'm not really sure what you guys are seeing some half the time here. Let me make it gigantic. That's
Oh,
all I
there we
got.
go.
So we
Doesn't
didn't,
mention.
yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
indicate the street. We just indicated, okay.
All good. Okay, thank you. So,
So this project is for an addition to an existing house on Oak Street, on 4 Oak Street. The program for this house, it's quite a small house. It's consistent with the neighborhood, but the program had some deficits, and so the project was to correct or try to improve the condition. So this is the existing house here. If you can see the ground floor here, it has a living room that you walk directly into, a pretty small kitchen, dining room area. So the ground floor deficits were, they really need a mudroom condition. There's no way to really furnish this room without it being sort of a dumping ground as you walk in. And so there was a need for a mudroom. The second need, which is a crucial need, is a ground floor bathroom. The clients have elderly parents. One is disabled and debilitating over time and really can't make the stairs to the bathroom, so it's making them impossible to visit without that. So those two items, the mudroom and the ground floor bathroom, sort of drives the program and forced us to relocate the kitchen, which is also already problematic because it has these, if you look at it, has these 3 entrances, which makes it very hard to get anything in that kitchen with all that circulation through the kitchen. So the goal was to, on the ground floor, was to relocate the kitchen, relocate the dining room, get the mudroom and the powder room usage in there. On the second level, which I'll just scroll over here quickly. Not working. On the second level, you'll see there's a primary bedroom. There's 2 children's bedrooms, which are occupied, and then there's a primary bedroom that has 2 pretty significant deficits. There's a primary bath that's very tiny. The shower is, barely functional, and also there's no closet space. The depth of the closet is not even full depth, so there really isn't closet space built into the bedroom, and then there's a bed position problem and some other things. So what we tried to do is develop a solution with a second level on the addition that would house the bathroom and closet space for this bedroom. So you access that here and you'd go through that. So our first version of this that we developed for the planning board included a second level bathroom and a second level closet space above a kitchen. All of it still quite compact, but that was the first attempt. And we have a neighbor to the west that was concerned about the height of that. We made some changes to try to accommodate that neighbor. They were still unhappy with the changes. The planning board sent us to you, but rather than go to ZBA, we went back. Our client asked, like, they really wanted to try to do their best to accommodate the neighbor. And so we went back and we modified the program to see if we could get the ridge of the proposed building down. So what we did was eliminate the closet requirement. So, and really the primary bath requirement too. So what we have in front of you is actually the second round, a second design that was developed to lower the ridge of the house and try to reduce to an absolute minimum the impact on the neighbor to the west. And in order to do that, we had to throw away some important program that would have resolved some deficits. So basically the primary bedroom still is not going to have any closets, and the primary bath is going to be enlarged slightly, but not very much. So to get to the proposal of what we're doing, so this is the elevation of the existing house. We have some photos quickly that I can go through too if you want to see what it looks like on the site. And then this is the proposed first floor. So there's an addition in this area that is the kitchen, and you can see this is the mudroom that is separated from the living room. and a small powder room. As you enter the mudroom, there's a small powder room and a mudroom. The powder room is relatively tight, but it's designed to meet the requirements of someone who's elderly. And then the dining room is moved to the back, which is not great, but it allowed us to position the kitchen in such a way that it made the most sense relative to the setbacks, which I'll show you in a minute. Then on the upstairs,
John, just show me before you move on. So what was just vaguely, what was the original footprint, if you see what I'm saying?
the footprint was similar. So the footprint of what we're showing here is the same.
Yes.
It's about the height of it. So, and you'll see on the second floor here, we had a full second floor where you accessed here. And I can pull it up if you guys can wait a second, I'll pull that one up. But we had a full second floor, and now that second floor has been eliminated. So the only second floor space is this little bit of shower, and that shower space is meant to look like an appendage, like a chimney appendage, and the bathroom is going to be lit only by skylight, because another concern of the neighbor is second floor privacy. So we've eliminated any windows from this space so that there isn't any issue of second floor privacy. So if you look, this is the proposed elevation. This little piece here on the side elevation is supposed to look like a chimney, but it's really got a skylight, and it's allowing a little bit of area with full head height so that you can have a code-compliant shower in that area. Otherwise, the ridge is below the level of the ceiling of the second floor, so the whole thing is lower. The addition is actually 1.5 stories by that standard. So you see on the elevation here, you can see the ridge. And what we've done on these elevations is we've shown dotted lines that show the previous design, the height of the previous design. So you see this dotted line here shows how much we dropped it. We basically, by eliminating that program, that improvement to the bathroom from the second level, we've dropped the ridge by 3 feet. Also, here you can see that here, the impact that had in terms of dropping that ridge. And so that's what we're doing. You can see it's kind of a squat, small addition to the side, but it meets all the program requirements that are left on the program because the owner was willing to eliminate the rest. So here you see this is the typical section of it, and on this drawing we've shown the neighbor's house, the Burke's house to the side, just to be sure that there aren't issues of light affecting second-story windows. I think there was a concern about blocking views. There will be changes of views from the second floor because it's sort of unavoidable. We did do a view impact analysis, but again, the view impact analysis is only related to river views. So there aren't any impacts on anybody's river views, which would be houses to the east of that. And then there really isn't going to be any change to the views from the lower level because right now there's a hedge, portions of which are 14 feet already, and a fence that, provides privacy between the two lots, even in the area of this addition. And so just to go back to the site plan, which is kind of crucial. If we go into the site plan here, I'm sorry, this is busy, but here I can highlight this. Hold on one second. Just some little pattern. So the setback lines are here. So this is the limit of the buildable area on the lot. So you can see because the lot is special and has 2 front yards, the effective buildable area that's within the setbacks is very, very small. So given that we knew it was tied into this area here, we've located the addition in the buildable area that's available. So, the house takes up this portion. So we're trying to focus on getting the addition in this area. So the width of the buildable area is not functional. There's not really any use you can do that's only like 6 feet wide, maybe a closet. So for the kitchen width, we start at the side yard setback and we're inside the side yard setback and we, extend to the width that we need to do the kitchen. And then in terms of the impact of the mudroom, we've tucked that as close to the building as possible. So the impact on the front yard setback that we're talking about is this impact here. So even though the new front yard setback is similar to that of the house, it's really, the attempt was to set it back at this 23 part. So really pull it back as far as we could and still get the function in the kitchen. In the other things that we are asking for let me just be clear. So in terms of the front yard, we're asking for a front yard setback for that extension. The existing house is a nonconformity, obviously, but this is an extension of the nonconformity. But again, we were trying to hold it back as far as we can. On the side that faces the neighbor's house, the west side, in the side yard, we are asking for a very small variance right here. We have a piece of equipment here that is going to end up hanging about 3 inches into that side yard setback. If you look at the places that aren't affected by yard setbacks, it's a very small area. And if we wanted to get that equipment inside the setback, we'd have to modify, narrow the building, or we'd have to put it in an area where it's pointlessly visible and doesn't make sense. So we're asking for that very small setback, but also because that whole area is screened, it will have no impact on the neighbors. And there's many other items that are already in the setback that are being removed. So we're removing items that are extending further into the setback and replacing them with like a unit here that's smaller. This unit here is actually replacing an HVAC piece of equipment here that's now in the setback. Then in terms of coverage and let me just get out of this so I can draw. We are also, again, this is a neighborhood that is, pretty tightly zoned in terms of coverage. So what we are requesting is here, let me get to the diagrams. The existing is at 112 of allowable, about 161 square feet over, and the proposed is slightly more than that. So we're going from 112 over to 113 over. So we're asking for a variance for that few square feet of additional space. And then on the FAR side, the existing is just under FAR allowable. And what we're going to, proposed FAR that we're going to is 109% over. I mean, not 109% over, which is, I'm not sure what the square footage is not shown here. Hold on 1 second. It's about 100 and it is about 200 square feet over allowable in terms of FAR. We did provide a neighborhood analysis to put that request, that variance request in context, which should be here right now. And you'll see that, the existing is 96, our proposed is 109. And there's a lot of examples in the neighborhood at 103, 101, 110, 127. So it's really relatively common to have increases over that. Again, when we do our analysis, we're treating we know everything about the building, so we're doing our proposed FAR. We know it's accurate. In the other buildings that we don't know, we are being more conservative. So you'll see the FAR for all of these buildings, even though the vast majority of them are over allowable, do have attics calculated at 50%. Without getting inside a building, we've had this conversation before, we don't really know that the attics aren't finished and they shouldn't be counted 100%. In our case, the attic is finished and accessed by a stair and is accounted at 100%, and we're treating it that way. So just in a sense, these things, we believe they're accurate, but they may be a bit conservative in terms of what the FAR is for the neighborhood. So I think that's where we are. I think just to jump back to the program again, everything that is being proposed, we think is not an extravagance. It's really improves the building so that the owners could live there for a long period of time, which is in the intent, and that their family can visit them and be involved with the kids, the grandparents and the kids, and all work in the building together, and that just allow the building to work better. They were willing to pull back the scope in order to accommodate the neighbors the best they can, and are willing to take that hit on the second floor, but they really need this addition to operate in the house nicely.
Anybody else want to be heard on this? Okay, we'll start with you and then Dale will get to you. Yes. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. My name is Brian Burke. I'm here tonight with my wife, Patricia Waters. We are the owners of the property at 5 Willow Street, which directly adjoins the 4 Oak Street property to the west. And that is the property which is going to be most directly impacted by this addition that has been proposed. And we think it will be impacted in a significantly negative way. We have submitted a letter that outlines our concerns to the board, which I hope you've had a chance to take a look at. The letter probably will explain our position much better than I'll be able to explain it here to you tonight. But I would like to just make a couple of points here this evening. The first one is, I think, how important this is to Trish and I. We have lived in this house for more than 30 years. We bought the house because we fell in love with it when we first saw it. And we've never attempted to change the footprint of the house in all the years that we've lived here. And the reason we haven't done that is it's on a very small lot. And we knew that variances are required to make any changes really to these lots in this neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And because of the zoning laws, we thought we would be protected against any of our neighbors on the small lots making changes as well. And in order to understand our concern, you have to really understand the uniqueness of these 2 lots that we're talking about. They are the only 2 lots in the block between Willow and Oak Street that don't go all the way through the block. So every other house on the block has an unobstructed view across both Willow and Oak Street out of their east and west windows. Our 2 houses don't, but that problem is ameliorated by the fact that they're offset on a north-south axis. So we still have views all the way across the block from most of our east side windows, and they still have views all the way across the block from most of their west side windows. It's that offset that is directly going to be impacted if this addition goes through. And it will create what we think is going to be a much darker situation for us, both out of our first floor windows and also out of the second floor windows. Let me just address what the presentation that Mr. Malone just made about the changes that were made to the initial plan. Apparently, I studied the plans after the initial plan. I studied the second plan. I'm not an expert at reading architectural drawings, I'm afraid, but they did lower the roof somewhat, but it's still going to reach the ridge line is still going to reach the top of our second story windows, and it's still going to create a significant impact on our views, even if I believe originally it came to the bottom of their attic window. And as he said, the house has a finished attic because prior owners, rather than doing this kind of an extension, had finished the attic to take advantage of the existing footprint. So even though they have lowered the roof line somewhat, we don't think that that's a material change. And it's no lower than the addition that was proposed, which I'll talk about in a second, 20 years ago in exactly the same spot, under exactly the same zoning laws, which this board unanimously rejected. And it rejected the proposed variances at that time, which are exactly the same as the variances that you're considering here tonight, because they, in the words of the chairman of the board at that time, he thought it would have a serious effect upon our property and would create a wall-like situation between the 2 houses. And that's exactly what it will do. And that's exactly what we're concerned about. So first, we want you to know that we wouldn't be here tonight if we didn't think that this was very important and that it would significantly change our ability to enjoy the house that we purchased. It does, and that's why we've come. Secondly, we wish that you would consider the unique nature of these 2 lots and how what they're proposing to do is going to have an impact on us, that despite the neighborhood survey that Mr. Malone points to, we don't believe that there has been any addition in this neighborhood that will have as severe an impact on a neighboring property as this proposed addition is going to have on our property. And it's just because of the way the houses are situated. Finally, I would, well, with respect to the precedent, I mean, I'm still a practicing attorney myself. I know that in the law, precedent is valued. And I would hope that since we're talking about the same variances, but the same type of addition in the same spot that this board considered 20 years ago, that you also will value the precedent that was set 20 years ago, that this is not the kind of addition that should be allowed. As a final point, let me just say something about the process here. You know, when we went through this 20 years ago, it was a contentious and stressful process. In fact, it was so contentious and stressful that afterwards we got together with our neighbor, Mike Kornman at the time, who owned the other property that is adjacent to the Port Oak Street property. And we started the Sparrow Park Association of Neighbors, specifically because after going through this, we thought that having a neighborhood association would maybe create more of a community spirit and would prevent these kinds of contentious situations from arising, because the neighbors would talk to each other and they would feel each other out about these things before they go down the path of you know, spending a lot of money on developing plans and trying to push them through. Well, unfortunately, that isn't the way it worked in this situation. We didn't know anything about what the Coopers had in mind until we got the letter from Mr. Malone on the day after Thanksgiving, saying that they were putting through this 1.5-story addition, and that we should go down to the library. There would be a meeting at the planning board. So we did, and saw that it was materially the same as what was done 20 years ago. We immediately contacted the Coopers and explained our concerns. They came over, we showed them out the windows what we thought would be the problems. And they said they apologized for not bringing us into the process earlier. They said they'd talk to the architect and see what they could do. And then a week before the planning board meeting, Danielle Cooper came by and explained to us that the architect had said that it was already on the agenda for the planning board, so they couldn't change it, and we would have to go ahead and put our objections on the record, which we did. When we went back to then the board meeting the board carried over the matter to January. We went back in January. They had made some changes, as Mr. Malone's gone through tonight, but we didn't think they were materially addressing the problem that we had identified. There were a lot of technical things that the building department and the planning board had requested, but nothing that really addressed our concerns. So at that point, they brought the matter here. And we don't feel our concerns have been addressed. We are saddened by the way the process has gone. We hope it's not going to create ongoing problems in the neighborhood. Sure. But we had no choice but to come here and explain why we really would not like this to happen.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate you sticking it out till the end of what was a longish meeting. John, let me just ask you just real quick, just procedurally, and then we'll get to everybody else. Where are you with the planning board?
We've been referred to the zoning board, and then if we get approvals here or variances here, we have to go back to finalize that. Sarah, also, what I'd like to do is, I think Mr. Burke has indicated that this project is similar to what was proposed in 2004, and he included a sketch in his letter, and we have analysis that just sort of would put that into context in terms of what was proposed in 2004, what we originally proposed, and what we have in front of you today to sort of show you the mass and height and changes associated with that, which I think would make sense for us to go through, given that the statement that this project is materially the same as what was denied a variance in 2004.
And John, I do want to do that. I'd like to get Dale up here just to hear your concerns or comments first, and then we'll do that if that's okay.
Good
Okay,
evening. Hi, my name is Dale Russell. I live at 12 Willow Street in Spiro Park. By trade, I'm a registered landscape architect. So I appreciate the presentation here, appreciate the micro and the macro, and I'm going to refer to it as that being, first being the macro, that being Spiro Park. I'm a charter member of SPAN, Spiro Park Association of Neighbors. And it was formed for a lot of reasons, this being one of them. Spiro Park, as we all know, beloved neighborhood, it is dense. It is about as dense as you can get to be in a single family neighborhood. We all know that. Literally and figuratively, you can hardly turn around without bumping into someone. So my concern on a macro level is the precedent that is going to be set here. From what I can see, the homeowners for Oak Street, they're asking for 4 variances. I have them listed here. You have them in front of me. I don't need to repeat it. I don't know the history of Spiro Park and if 4 variances have ever been granted. It sounds like a lot. It is a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot. It is a lot. You're talking coverage, you're talking FAR, you're talking 2 setbacks. Again, Spiro Park is a very dense neighborhood. On a micro level, I appreciate all that has gone into this. It is definitely an addition. It is a raising of the roof, literally. John had mentioned a 2-story. Originally, it was 2-story. Was it in fact 2 stories, John? If I may, can I speak directly?
Yeah, sure.
you're saying that our original proposal was 2 stories because
No,
actually,
I thought you had mentioned that.
I'm sorry, I'm confused by the question.
I thought in the original plans submitted late last year, was it a 2-story addition?
It actually was still 1.5 stories. It was taller by 3 feet, but it had occupation on the 2nd story, which it doesn't anymore, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
right. On a micro level, I'm concerned about light and air. Again, a very dense neighborhood. There's a reason 1933 that New York City adopted setback ordinances. It was all about light and air. It's a similar situation here. It's just at a residential level. So I'm concerned for my neighbors, Trish and Brian Burke, 5 Willow Street, and losing early morning light on their house. You walk down Willow Street, you walk down Willow Street, they get early morning light. With this addition, 1.5 stories, granted, it was lowered by 3 feet, not a whole lot. They're losing this morning light. They're losing that air. And I'm concerned about the precedent that it sets for the neighborhood of Spiro Park. 4 variances, it's a lot. I hope you consider that. I think it's important. It's a jewel of a neighborhood. I've lived there for 27 years. You've all been there. You've probably walked it many, many times. So please consider that. I'm not going to talk about necessities of program, necessities of residential development. That's none of my doing here. It's more about the macro area of Spiro Park neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. John, I would like to go back to that because that was on my list of questions for you, is how to distinguish this application from the one 20 years ago.
Okay, I can start there and then I can come back and some of the other stuff that was brought up, like impacts on light and, setbacks and stuff like that. But let me just start by going back there. So the best way maybe to see it is here is let me see if I can find. Here's the plan of what was proposed in 2004. And you can see that the building filled the entire width of the existing structures. Ours is set back and does not extend into the front yard setback as far as this one is proposed to. Also, it's longer. So the length of it, of the thing is about 4 or 5 feet longer in this direction. And then also it's taller. So I think this elevation was included in Mr. Burke's letter, which sort of shows the side elevation and shows a dimension of 23.5. And you can see it had, you know, in order to occupy that space, it had a dormer that increased the height or just extended the volume of it and increased the height. So I think we can look at it here. I modified this drawing just to show the difference. So on a side elevation, you can see this is our proposal down here, obviously the drawn one, and the first dotted line is our reduction from the existing. So you see, we had started below the height of that partly because the building wasn't as wide, which allowed the ridge to be lower. And so we were already about 3 feet below that. And then here's the 23-foot mark and the additional mass of what was proposed. Here you can see this.
John, I'm sorry, what's the distance between the original one that was not granted and the proposed one here?
I have something here that I can go through. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Find that. So let me just show you this quickly, and then I'll go to the numbers that are associated with it. So again, here, just to show you where it is on the site, it's basically longer and taller. And then this sort of shows you the impact in terms of how much larger it is. This red line here shows the width of the proposed and the height compared to what we're proposing down here. And then so here we did some analysis that compares the 2004 project to our initial project to our proposed project right now. So you see the 2004 project was 23.5 high and had a volume, the overall volume of about 9,000. Our initial project was about 2 foot lower at the ridge, and our volume was about 60% of that in terms of what the mass of it was. And then the proposed project that we have now is about 18 feet high to the ridge. And so in terms of height, it's about 3/4 as high to the ridge as the original proposed. And in terms of its volume, it is a half the size of what was originally proposed in 2004 in terms of the volume of the proposed addition. So the height difference that you asked is it is really about 5.5 feet is the difference between what was shown originally and what we are proposing. I mean, what was shown in 2004 and what we're proposing. And then just quickly, you can see, you know, the difference that would have in the relationship to the adjacent building, right? I'm sorry, I don't know why it doesn't zoom sometimes. So here again is the relationship of the Burke's building as drawn to this proposal, right? So it does, you know, the height of the ridge is higher than the window, but the distance from the ridge to here is at least 30 feet from the ridge to here. And the sun angle that would have to be impacted here is very, very minor, given the fact that the aqueduct is, you know, higher than this, and you know the likelihood of sun angles being blocked by this is very, very low, given its distance and given how low it is relative to those windows, right? The sun angles have to be below 10%, which is, you know, not going to see over the ridge, the Irvington Ridge up by the reservoir. So that's in terms of its relationship to the existing, I mean, the original proposed in 2004. And so I don't know if you want me to keep going and respond to some of the other things that we're doing, or you want to ask questions on that.
Does anybody have any questions on that?
And I would like to speak as well.
Okay, sure. You're the property owner?
Property owner, yeah.
Yep. And then maybe John, you can address those other points. That would be great.
Right.
So I just took some notes. I'm Danielle Cooper. My husband and I owned, I'm sorry, I've had cold too. We own 4 Oak Street. We moved into the property on 2021. I actually lived in Irvington in 2006. About 18 years ago, I lived in South Continent Street in that old stone house. I lived here as a single person, and I always knew that I wanted to come back and raise a family in Irvington. It's picturesque. It's just a beautiful place, and I always knew that I wanted to live in Sparrow Park. So fast forward to 2015, when I met my husband, we got engaged, and very quickly we started looking in Sparrow Park at that time. And of course, there was never any inventory at that time. So, fast forward to 2021, we found the house, we fell in love with it, and I had to have it. It was just so gorgeous. At the time, you don't really think about your aging parents. So my parents, my father is going towards 80. He's a Vietnam vet. He is disabled and his health is disintegrating pretty rapidly now. And he and my mother help with childcare for my 5-year-old. And they are there once a week, and then they're also there all the other holidays that, Dow's Lane has off. The relationship with my father and son is beautiful. And also it helps us financially as well with the rising costs of childcare. There are many different viewpoints in the neighborhood about, the architecture and the additions that are going up. There's about 4 or 5 of them that are going up right now that are significantly larger than ours. And we're very considerate of the design and the aesthetic of the neighborhood. I went to fashion and design school. I want to keep the aesthetic of the neighborhood as is as well. The peak design is, based on the design of the house. So it's going to the aesthetic of the house. We did not go to the Burke's house because if you knock on everyone's door in a neighborhood, everyone's going to have an opinion of what you should and shouldn't do. So we were told that the protocol was that letters are sent out to the neighborhood and that everyone should come to town hall to address what their concerns are. So we thought that we were following protocol. We also we were very cordial with the Burkes, but we don't really have a relationship with them. So in retrospect, we should have maybe done that. We hold no ill will towards the Burkes, no ill will towards any of our neighbors. We were taking the high road. I know that there's neighbors that are very opposed to these sorts of projects. There are a lot of neighbors that are very pro to these projects, and we could also have people here, but we decided not to do that because we thought that the issues were between,
Sure. Yeah.
us. But if that, sort of comes to it, we can bring that in as well. I think my other point was just that, based on the feedback, these aren't like nice to have things. These are things that I have to continue to have relationships with my parents to come to my house. And my husband's parents are also in their 80s. We love the neighborhood. We think it's a very tasteful addition. We definitely took the Burke's concerns into consideration and redesigned many times with John and his firm. And we felt that we came up with the most fair compromise that we could.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
John, did you had a few more points you wanted to make?
Yeah, I think there was a discussion about 4 variances and being substantial or large or unprecedented to have that many variances. And I just wanted to reiterate that the variance that we were requesting are the result of a lot that has 2 fronts. And again, earlier we looked at the potential buildable area on the lot, and the entire existing building is effectively non-conforming. And there isn't a way to put any additional construction on the lot. And there wouldn't have been any way to put any construction on the lot that didn't require variances. I don't think the intent of the code was to make the lot unbuildable. And I think the neighborhood existed before zoning, and I don't think the intent of the code was to do that. So I think, and then the setback that I think the neighbors are most concerned about, again, is the setback adjacent to their house. And again, the variance that we are requesting for that is 3 inches and only relates to a small piece of equipment that's at grade. And otherwise, the building is entirely within that setback by about 1 foot. So we're right, there's a setback there, and we're outside of that setback with the building, and we're set back from it. In terms of light and air, we looked at that. I don't think that there can be any effect on light. I agree that there will be effect on the view from certain second floor windows in their house that, are views across the neighbor's property. We believe that's unavoidable, but we don't think that there will be any effect on ground floor light or upper level light. Again, at the ground floor level, there is already at the fence line an evergreen hedge that limits views from those windows, and it's only a few second floor windows in a house that has views in 4 directions, right? Potential views in 4 directions. So the impact is only in a certain area, and the impact isn't on light. And then I think just in terms of density and precedent, I think we've shown in the zoning analysis that it is very typical in the lot, and we don't believe that the development that's being proposed there exceeds what is typical in the lot or affects character of the neighborhood. The design is intended to make it look as if the addition was always part of the assembly, and we've done a lot of houses in this neighborhood where we feel that we've achieved that without having any character impact. And then just finally to repeat what Danielle has already said, again, the role or the expectation or what we would hope the board would do would be weigh the benefits of the owner, the potential benefits of the owner to the potential impacts on the neighborhood as a whole. And we believe that the things that the owner is asking for are crucial to how people live today and how their not just enjoyment of their house, but honestly just the base function of their house as they raise 2 children and they get older and they manage their parents. And these are not requests that are extravagant and intended to, that aren't necessary for them to move forward. But I think, and if there's anything else, I can respond to it specifically.
I see the plans for the inside again, John, just to the floor plan.
Okay. First floor or upper level? Well, there's not much on the upper level. First floor.
And again, just show me again how much of that represents the addition.
So it is, let me. Wow, that didn't work at all. Hold on 1 second. Let's try that again. So it's basically this and this.
The original house was a square.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
The rectangle there. Yeah.
Is a square.
Is a square. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the kitchen. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question or a comment that, John, in the rear or the side yard where I guess the HVAC is going, that's roughly 10 foot off the property line.
Let me just make sure I get that right.
But what, and the setbacks and the coverage and the FAR, it's fine. But one comment that you made that if you're at 5 Willow and you walk in the backyard and you're sort of at the property line and the morning sun is coming up over the aqueduct, which I understand is at a higher elevation, I think that you just said that there'd be no impact on light, and I just can't see that possible. If you've got a structure that's approximately 17 to 18 feet, but if you're standing, having a cup of coffee in the morning, that the light wouldn't be blocked.
So when I say that, it's the light angle, right? That the light that is coming in. So in order for the light to be blocked, right, you have to have a line that is from here, right? So this is the top of the window, right? So the sun.
Let's say you're standing in the backyard. You
wake up in the backyard, right? Right. I think
around.
Right now you have a shrub that's here, right? So if you're walking in here, like if you're saying if there's a body, and this isn't the backyard, this is the side yard that I don't think is occupied. I don't think this is in an area of the house that they use, the exterior side of the house that they use. But you can see that it's already limited by the evergreen, right?
I have to raise my hand on that one.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying, like, in terms of the upstairs windows, if the concern is light effect on the upstairs windows, the sun angles that would be impacted are not the same as if the addition, the other proposed addition up here, where the sun angle is, have to be like that. That's what I'm trying to get at, right? And in terms of impacts in here, this addition doesn't impact light in that area because that light is already limited, I think, by what's there. But there will be some effects of some building. There's no way to put an addition on and have absolutely no impact. The question is, like, the addition is within the set, it's within that side yard setback. It's not, we're not proposing to put the building closer, and we're not proposing to put it as high as initially proposed. We're doing what we can to get it away, but then again, we can't push it further away because we're pushing it into the front yard. Right.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, yes.
Mr. Malone, I'm wondering.
Could you come up to the mic?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, just so everybody can hear you. Thanks.
Mr. Malone, this is Brian Burke. Are your elevations and your heights, they're based from the existing grade of the 4 Oak Street property, right?
They are, and I think your property, Wall Street, was based on the GIS map of the location.
But I mean, my property, I'm not an expert, but my property I know is lower than yours by a little bit anyway, because it's down your house to our house. So don't you have to add on to that the difference in the grades between the two houses to really fully understand the impact on the light that you're going to have?
So this drawing is drawn accurately, including that differential. So there's a 2-foot differential in the floor heights of the two that is drawn currently. Right, again, and we haven't been in your house, Mr. Burke, to measure the entire thing. This is based on information that's available from the GIS and available from the property card publicly.
So I don't know what the GIS is.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a Westchester County mapping system that provides topography for all of Westchester. So we have topographic information that sets the heights of all of Westchester on a 2-foot line.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments?
Yes, I think you had some, just when you were sort of showing the neighborhood, you had aerial views.
Yeah.
Is there a way to come in to sort of show the sort of offset relationship between the two houses? I'd be curious. I was out there today and just to sort of, again, visualize that one. Yeah, if there's a way to do.
Let me see if I can zoom in here without messing it up. Let's see. So these are the two properties here. Right.
I'm sorry, which one's up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
SAA.
Yes, this property is the subject property, and then this property next to it is the Burks.
Right.
Right. The condition of the houses with two fronts is typical in the neighborhood along Station Road. That's a condition that happens at least 3 times along Station Road or 4 times along Station Road. You can see. I mean, one of the reasons that this offset works here is that this building is non-conforming in its front yard, slid forward.
Okay. Anybody else have any? Yes.
Hi, I'm Patricia Waters, and I live at 5 Willow Street. And I just want to address Danielle, and I appreciate your presentation, and I sympathize with your concerns about your father. I have the same situation with my mother, who's going to be 100 soon. By Mr. Malone's own admission, he said that our views will be affected. He said there's no other way around that. And I don't know if we sent you a packet that had some photos in there. We took some pictures from outside our upstairs window, and we just look forward to that every morning. You get up and, we can see the sunrise, and there's light that flows into our upper hallway and our bedroom. And so that's not insignificant for us. The other thing is, and these houses, we have very little closet space in our house. We have a lot of deficits in our house. We saw that when we bought it, and that doesn't mean that people don't have the right to apply to add on or whatever, but it's, you see what when you're buying a house, you see what's there. So anyway, my main point is, I think the light will be affected no matter what is, you haven't been in our house, you don't see what the sun comes in the morning. And our views definitely will be affected. And it will, as Brian said, the previous, even though it's not exactly the same as the plan in 2004, it will cause a wall-like effect. And I believe the planning board chairman at first, when this was first presented, called it suffocating. It's in the minutes. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from anybody?
I had a question. I can emphasize with the need for a bathroom on the first floor.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the setbacks are towards Station Road on the north side of the home, John. Was that at all kind of noodled on? Was that possible? Or rather than going south to go north? Would that?
Oh, no, it's non-conforming by almost 100% already on the north, so there's no additional room to go north. No. And also, just in terms of the light, we do have the letter that was received from the Burks, and we can sort of show you why we believe that it won't affect light and will potentially affect views. And I think it would make sense for me to just show you those photos that they sent, and if that's okay.
Yeah.
So this is a view. This is a view that I'm not sure what. Yeah, this one. I mean, one that's sort of obvious. They sent this view with a line indicated here for the ridge of the house, and that's not accurate where the line is. The line of the proposed thing is closer to here of the ridge, so that's how low it is. So you can see that it doesn't affect view of sky, and it only affects the view of across the yard through there. It will affect that, but it won't affect light into the house, and that's what I've been trying to indicate at the lower level that we've shown. Then I think also here's a view from Mr. Burke's office, which I think is second floor. Again, the height of the reduced height that we proposed is around here. So again, it will affect view, but it's not going to have impact on light or the sunrise or any of those concerns, because the view, the original, the 2004 proposal was up here somewhere. The proposal that we originally came in is here, and this is dropped even further. And again, in order to make that drop, they had to make additional concessions in terms of having basically no primary closet space. I think there's
So,
one.
I guess here's what I'm thinking, and again, only speaking for myself on this one. I am very sympathetic to the need for a downstairs bathroom. That's obvious. But it is just impossible in that neighborhood to do anything without impacting your neighbors. I mean, it's just the way the neighborhood was constructed. And I'm very sympathetic to the Burke's concerns. I mean, it is going to really affect their experience of their property. I guess I'm thinking, could we do an adjournment for a month and maybe give everybody on the board another chance to go out there and really kind of take in now that you've had this experience?
So Sarah, I walked around
Okay.
this morning. What would be really helpful is if we staked it.
I was just gonna suggest that if you could stake it out,
Right.
maybe your proposal, and it would give you some time to think about. There any other ways you could achieve some of your ends with maybe less of an addition? I know we've heard you. I mean, and I appreciate it. You know, you're not doing very much with the upstairs, but it's a tight neighborhood, as been said before, and by building on it, you really are impacting other people. So what do you think? Should we do an adjournment and stake it out so we could get more of an idea and then give you a little time to think on it? Yeah, Dale. Yes, please. Yeah, just so everybody who's listening online can hear.
A staking out is, it's gonna have to be three-dimensional
No, I understand, but I totally
because
get it.
it's,
Yeah.
because it's really the blocking of views and
I
light.
totally get that, and I don't know how practical a three-dimensional one is, but at least it would give us a real frame of reference to imagine that 17 or 18 feet up from there.
And again, thank you for showing the aerial view because it shows the uniqueness of these two lots compared to most of Spiral Park.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just on a personal basis, when I was there, I looked at it from Oak Street. I did not go around to Willow Street. So I'd actually like to have a
Yeah.
chance.
I would say,
Chance to
Yeah.
do that.
please look at it from Willow Street.
I grew up steps from there and I would still like another look. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Burns.
That's right.
Could we just say that if you do adjourn this, if you would like to come inside the house and look at the views from our windows to see what we're worried about,
Yeah.
we'd be happy to arrange that. So that you
Okay.
can,
Well, maybe we could have Sarah or something, maybe communicate with you and arrange a time when it would be, you'd be available for us to come in and take a look. Could
It
we-
wouldn't be disruptive.
And if you could arrange for the
Yeah.
sun to be out that.
Yes, that would be good.
I don't think I have that.
Trish makes a hell of a cup of coffee.
Yeah. I think that would just give us all a better idea of what, we've heard a lot tonight that I think has been really helpful in terms of understanding everybody's concerns. I mean, on both sides. But I would like another look at it with more of an idea. If you could stake it, I think that would be really, really helpful. You agree?
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. What do you say? Could we do that?
Yeah, I can talk to the client about what, I'm not sure how to stake something in three-dimensional. That's.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I take Dale's point that the three-dimensional, I think that might be a little burdensome to ask you to do that. I'd more just like it staked out on the ground. We can use our imagination and the drawings that you've given us to sort of imagine what that would be like. But it would give us a good idea.
And also how far over it
Yeah, how far over it extends, exactly. And then maybe we could arrange a visit to the property at a convenient time, just so we could get an idea from your house of what that would look like. I think that would be really helpful.
And in terms of, while we have the board here, in terms of the concerns that the board has,
Mhm.
are the concerns light to existing windows in the Burke's house, or what are the remaining concerns of, because I think if we have another month, I want to make sure to address what we can, if there are any other concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my overall concern would be how looming is it gonna feel? How much is it gonna feel like there's been a big impact on their sense of space, light, view, all of that, yeah. Again, I'm in a neighborhood that's pretty tight. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, the setback doesn't seem.
I think that's valid. I'm frankly more concerned about light, but that's certainly a fair consideration also.
So, my view, because I think this gets to what Sean's asking, is I personally don't have any issues in terms of bar and lot coverage.
Right.
I think it's absolutely consistent with the neighborhood,
Yes,
right? So to me,
Yes.
it's really,
I agree.
the only issue on the table, as far as I'm concerned, is impact on 5 Willow.
Yeah,
In the neighborhood.
yes,
Right.
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry, the impact on what?
Their house.
May I just ask one more question?
Sure.
So it's the light, essentially. So it's not the extension in general, it's the light.
Well,
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think it's the overall feeling of whether or not this is looming over their house, right? So I looked at the house this morning, starting from your house, and I would say, it's only coming out this far, it looks pretty good. I took some pictures around on the other side and I went, oh my God, it's gonna be right on top of this house. Especially when I took the view from Station Road and was looking over the wooden fence, I was like, that's really close. So I would like to see it staked so that I can get a better feel for what that might be like. But again, that's just me, just speaking for myself.
yes,
I
yeah,
think a word might be bulk.
Yeah.
The bulk of the house.
It's not a word I would use, but.
yeah. Anybody else? Okay, well, what do you think, John? Can we do that?
Yeah, we'll figure something out and I'll talk to my client, we'll let you know. I mean, I think what we'd have to communicate is when it's staked, right? So that you don't go out there too soon. Because it may take us a while to
I'd
do
like
that.
to know, and then if we could coordinate with the parks and so we could get access to their property and see it from their point of view, that would be great.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay, so we'll see you back here next month, but hopefully we'll see you before then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
In terms of coordinating, I don't know
Yes.
when the next board meeting is scheduled for in March, because we are planning to be out of the country for a few days and I don't want to.
I think it's March 26th. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Yes.
March 26th, and do we return on? We may get back on the 26th, I'm not certain, but there's a possibility we may not be able to be at the next meeting.
Okay, we can,
You can zoom in.
you can Zoom.
Uh,
Yeah, you can Zoom, or you could also put everything you want to give us in writing.
If it's the 26th, we may actually be in an airplane.
Right. Or you can certainly, put everything you want to put in writing. I mean, I think we get your concerns and
Okay.
we're considering them, believe me, we're
But
not.
there is
we
some
won't-
time between now and the next meeting where we will be able to come into your house.
Right,
Yes, we,
Yeah.
just,
You're
so
not-
the
you're
board
not
knows,
leaving.
we will be leaving
On
on
vacation.
the 16th.
Okay.
So
Okay.
anytime before the 16th, we would be happy to have you come in and
Yeah,
take a look.
okay, great. So if we could get it done more towards the beginning of the month, that would be great. Okay, thank you all very much, and we will be seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay.